This is a strange one, but can you ask Simon why my body hair, i.e. my chest hair, arse crack, pubes, etc., go to a certain length and then stops, yet the hair on my head just keeps on going?
Why the fuck would I know that?
I don't know.
I'm not a hairmonologist.
Well, welcome very much to Enemy in Conversation, and we're delighted to be here today with Simon Pegg.
Hello.
Simon, thank you very much for joining us. We've got some questions from me and a few from the readers, which I believe you've had a little look at on our Twitter. What was your reaction?
I heard it came up. Yeah, I don't manage my Twitter anymore. I disappeared.
Right.
But I heard a whisper.
Right.
From Team Pegg.
Yeah.
There's some questions were coming in.
But they're going to be a surprise.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
No, I haven't read them. Don't worry.
So it's a very hot day. You're dressed for it. It's cornetto weather, you might say. More of that later.
All weather is cornetto weather. Don't be.
But we're here first to talk about Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah.
So, simple question. Tell us about Mission Impossible Fallout. It's the sixth one in the series.
It is.
Is this, if you haven't seen the others, should we be jumping on here, or do people need to do some revision first?
No, I mean, I think if you haven't seen a Mission Impossible film, it's everyone is a sort of great entry point because they're all sort of separate adventures and what have you, and in the great sort of tradition of statecraft, spy, intrigue kind of hijinks with extraordinary stunts. This one sees Tom Cruise's character Ethan Hunt at a sort of personal crossroads in the movie. He's facing up to the possibility that all his world saving might have just made matters worse. And we see characters that we met in the last film, specifically Rebecca Ferguson's Ilsa Faust, Sean Harris's Solomon Lane, the bad guy, and myself. I've been doing it since 3. This is my 4th Mission Impossible film. The joke is always that, oh, well, obviously they're not that impossible. But I think the point...
You're aware of that joke?
Yeah, oh, yeah. It's the same as why doesn't the Incredible Hulk's trousers come off? It's one of those shared jokes that people think is hilarious. The point is that these these missions are just extremely difficult and outwardly may seem impossible.
It's probably not as bombastic a title as an extremely difficult mission wouldn't be.
It doesn't sound as good, does it?
It's not as good as it.
You never know that maybe this one is impossible each time.
Right, so that could be the surprise.
Yeah.
Do you spend all day on set with the Mission Impossible theme tune going through your head?
It does bother me.
It's been bothering me all day. I've had it in my head all day long.
I remember once I was trying to get into America without my work visa because I had all the right documentation in place, but the visa didn't clear in time, and I had to go over there for a work issue. So I had to basically throw myself onto the mercy of the immigration officials there. This is pre-Trump. And I went to a second interview at immigration and I gave them all my documents, and I was trying to catch the eye of the immigration official because often, weirdly, for some reason, at immigration in the US, they often recognize me and I have a nice little chat. It smooths entry into the country. I thought, if I can do this here, it's going to be... But they wouldn't even look at me. They were making me sweat and I sat for 90 minutes and I was wondering if they were going to give me entry into the country. And then I heard from the office where they were processing my documents, this very gruff-looking immigration official go, "Doo-doo, doo-doo." And I knew at that moment I was going to be okay. They were just sort of like, you know.
Do you ever get recognised and they think this is sort of links me to another question? Do they ever look at you and actually they're thinking it's Michael Sheen? Because apparently he's said that he gets
all
asked.
the time.
Yeah.
Me and Michael just did a film together for the specific reason to make sure people see us as separate human beings.
You could do something named Face Off where you end up with a similar
But then
face.
it would just be face. We'd have a scene together and I swear, I'm like, yeah, I can see it. We both got little turned up noses and odd shaped faces. And but he's Welsh and I'm English, and you know, we're very clearly separate human beings. He did ask me after he came to the premiere of The World's End if the King's Head pub sign in The World's End is me as Charles I. And Michael came up to me after The World's End and said, "Was that me?" And I said, "No, Michael, it was me." So even he gets himself mixed up with me. So you can't blame people, really.
Fair enough. Yeah. So we said 6th Mission Impossible film. You've been 4. What is the enduring appeal, do you think? What's kind of keeping the audiences going back to them?
I think of late it's become about, you know, the linchpin for them has been the stunts being very much real, which is what our mantra has been since the 4th one.
You do your own stunts in this?
We all do, yeah.
Does Tom make people...
No, but I think what happened is that on the 4th one, when he hung off the world's tallest building, The audience responded really well to it because they could see that it was him. And in this day and age when you can do anything on screen, and it's an incredible place to be because we can see such extraordinary spectacle now on the cinema screen thanks to CGI, which is an amazing tool. But it does slightly remove the how do they do that question that we used to ask when we'd see special effects, when you couldn't figure out how it was done. Yeah. Now we have some vague idea of a person in a room with a computer. And you can do face replacements and you can do body replacements, and you know, there is a degree of tension which has been removed from cinema because we know we're not watching reality. I think what we kind of accidentally almost uncovered was this desire for the audience to kind of feel a sense of authenticity when they're watching the movie and be thinking, oh my God, that's the actor doing that. That's not just the character. That's actually, you know, Tom Cruise flying that helicopter in a spiral towards the ground. And there's a genuine sense of sort of terror and enjoyment that can be taken from that, which you don't necessarily get from watching something you know is fake.
Same as in a kind of a creature feature these days. It's nice to see a guy in a costume again.
Yeah, because there's a physicality to it.
Yeah.
But in this, it's a genuine peril, you know. And yeah, we all feel like we should do our own stunts because otherwise, you know, Cruise would be all like that. Like he gets like that.
What was the most terrifying stunt you did in this one?
Watching him hanging off a helicopter. With me and Rebecca thought he was going to die. There was a moment when he dropped off the helicopter and we didn't realise that was what was going to happen, and we just saw him falling, and we both went, oh fuck! But then we realised he was on a string. For me,
and he was on.
Yeah, he was like, hey, I'm fine. He was like, I had to do some underwater stuff. That was a little hairy. Driving a speedboat down the River Seine was quite fun. I tipped it. I did a really sharp turn and I almost tipped Ving Rhames out of the boat, which you never want to do. But you always feel very looked after. Our stunt crew are so dedicated and so on it. They train us so meticulously that you always feel incredibly well looked after. So it doesn't feel like, you know, there's any recklessness involved. There is the danger of the moment, which is always present.
I mean, so it's not a situation where they're kind of going, oh, just do it, and sort of
push
it.
My God, no. Yeah. I mean, it's so, we are taken care of.
So you know what you're doing. So you now must have loads of really awesome life skills that you could draw on, like, you know, driving a speedboat down the...
I can drive a speedboat.
Did you drive a speedboat?
I can drive a twin-engine speedboat, if you ask me. I can use a rebreather, which is a form of underwater equipment which isn't compressed air, which is what scuba is. A rebreather is a sort of closed system which goes on your front, and you breathe your own air, which it gets scrubbed. You know, you breathe out carbon dioxide, it becomes oxygen again, and you breathe it in a loop.
You can just stay down there indefinitely, almost.
Yeah, pretty much. Until your air will eventually degrade, but you can be stealthy because no bubbles.
And
if you want to infiltrate something, do you know what I mean? If you wanted to get into the melody maker and take it down, it's already gone.
And so Tom is he did injure himself for this one, right? So,
yeah, smashed his ankle bad.
Smashed his ankle, and that was sort of 9 weeks without filming.
Should have been 6 months, really, for a normal human being. Yeah. It would have been, but because he is Tom Cruise, and not only, I'm sure, has Wolverine level kind of healing skills, but also access to NASA equiment.
And Scientology power as
ankle
well,
fixes. I don't know about that. I don't know if that did anything. It's never come up. But I think his kind of like steadfast 100% attitude towards life went also into his bone healing, because 9 weeks later we were back on the shoot and he was running around London like a mad thing.
What had you been doing in the meantime? Just kind of kick about?
I made another film.
Right. Okay.
I produced a movie for mine and Nick Frost's production company Stolen Picture called Slaughterhouse Rules, which is a horror comedy. So I went off and shot my scenes for that, thinking I only had a week to do my cameo in that movie, and then it turned out I had 9 weeks. So I could have written myself a bigger role.
You're kind of a backroom guy on this one?
Yeah.
Right.
Nick and I are producing the movie, co-producing it with Sony Pictures and Catalyst Global Media. And we appear in the film separately, only in one scene together. But it's not really like a Simon and Nick movie, if there is such a thing.
And so this is kind of a horror film that involves fracking. Right?
Yes.
Now, is that because you care deeply about the ecological impact of fracking, or because it's got quite a lot of comedic potential, the word fracking?
The word frack?
Yeah.
Bit of both. Bit of column A, a bit of column B. No, I mean, the horror that Nick and I have made in the past, particularly specifically Shaun of the Dead, there's always been an allegorical edge to it. You know, Shaun of the Dead was also about something, and this film, which is essentially about a public school which sells off part of its land to a fracking company, similarly is about the UK's sort of privatisation and decay in the face of its ridiculous self-defeating selfism.
Nicely put.
Thank you.
So, and you have a horror series as well coming up, don't you?
We're producing.
Is this a stunt bruise?
No, this was. I did this on a bouncy castle at my daughter's birthday party. It was actually a disco dome, which is slightly music related. I don't know if you're a parent, read the enemy, but you can hire these things called disco domes. It's like a bouncy castle, but it's a dome, and inside it's dark and it has disco lights, and you can pump music in. My daughter's got a very eclectic music taste because we play a lot of music together. So she was listening to everything from Anna Managuchi to the cast of The Greatest Showman. But because it was such a hot day, it was like 36 degrees in there. And I dived in, and you can really skid your knee on a bouncy castle. You'll know this if you're a parent.
So this is what happens when you haven't got a stunt coordinator.
Exactly.
So,
I would have had pads on if I'd been on set.
What music have you got your daughter into then?
Oh God, her music taste, it's wonderful because she's like a blank slate. So she just has no prejudice about music. Like she will listen to Justin Bieber and Talking Heads in the same session, you know what I mean? And she loves, what does she like at the moment? She really loves Childish Gambino, right. And she really loves, what's that? Nadia Rose.
Great.
Yeah.
So you get her in for work experience if you want. It sounds like she's.
I know. I mean, yeah. Her little sort of mix her playlists. I was going to say mixtape, old school, is an extraordinary kind of journey through musical difference.
So I do want to ask about the series before we leave Mission Impossible. Though, so this was Mustache Gate came from Mission Impossible, didn't it? So this was Henry Cavill had a mustache.
Yeah.
Has a mustache in the film.
Who'd have thought it would be such a big thing having a mustache?
Well, it was a big thing for Warner Brothers, wasn't it? Who had to reshoot Justice League and
that was their fault, really. I mean, get your film right first time. Do you know what I mean?
How much amusement did this cause on the set of Mission Impossible? I imagine this is
none really. I mean, Henry went off because he had to do reshoots. It was a pain for Henry because he was already in mode for I say I'm speaking for Henry. I don't know if it was a pain for Henry. I know he loves working with those people, but the fact is we were in continuity for Mission Impossible, and it wasn't just about having a moustache. He had sort of a scruff, and it's hard to replicate that. It's okay. You can do a fake mustache, okay. Doing fake scruff is really difficult. Henry was down to do a fight scene on a cliff, and you can't rely on, when you're doing something which is that intensive and expensive, fake moustaches can cause all sorts of problems. And he was essentially contracted to Mission Impossible. Thus, he was in our continuity. So Warner Brothers, unfortunately, had to deal with that. That wasn't our fault. Maybe it wasn't their fault, but that's the way it is.
It certainly amused the internet a little bit.
It amused everybody far too much in a way that was beyond petty.
To the point where you're still answering questions about someone's moustache.
I said to Henry, doesn't this bore you? Everyone's fucking talking about moustache gays out now. All publicity is good publicity.
Yeah, and you kind of did you get on well with the other cast members? I guess you and Tom are pretty tight bros now.
Hate each other. It's a rough old time on that shoot because nobody really likes each other.
Yeah.
No, it's great. I mean, I've known Tom for 12 years now and done a bunch of these movies together. I get an interesting access to him that not many other people get, which is to get to see him being a regular person, which people don't assume that he is. And he is, really, Rebecca Ferguson, who came on the last one, is just awesome. She's Swedish, has all the pragmatism of a brilliant Scandinavian, and is just lovely to be around. Alec Baldwin is my favourite man on earth. Right. He's just the funniest guy, and he's extraordinary to watch. Tell
us a good Alec Baldwin joke then.
Alec will do, he gets into this state for doing his lines because he plays a very intense character, and he'll sort of he'll reset himself very quickly and start again. So you have to really, when you're shooting him, if you have to reset the camera, you go quick because he'll reset, and he goes, I'm going to say. And he has this incredible energy, which is just amazing. And he always, when he does deliver, it's just a full face worth of Baldwin beauty. But I also get to spend a lot of time with Ving Rhames, who for me will always be Marcellus Wallace from Pulp Fiction. I mean, he was 26 when he did that role. And it's always fun to talk to him about his sort of journey through his career, because he's a smooth dude, and I really love hanging out with him. So for me, it's just a bit of a joy. And also I had a great time with Sean Harris, who people see as a sort of a bit of an intense kind of actor who's a bit inapproachable, but you get to know these people one-to-one, and things are usually different.
You've done a huge amount of Hollywood films now and had a great amount of success, but you did come from British TV. Do you ever just kind of on set think, this is weird? You know, do you have that kind of imposter syndrome ever about being in these? No.
I feel totally at home. But I do often feel, I mean, sometimes I try and see things through the view of my younger self, you know, as a film fan. Growing up, you know, as a kid, I've been on the set of things like Star Trek, particularly those big sort of science fiction fantasy movies like Star Wars and Star Trek. You kind of
you're one of the few people to do the sort of the nerd double and
and Doctor Who. That was it's the trifecta. It is interesting to try and imagine how you would feel if it was your 7-year-old self, or you were telling your 7-year-old self, one day you'll be doing this. So I try and obtain a sort of vicarious wonder sometimes from that, but generally speaking, it's my job, you know. And when you're on set, it's a lot less glamorous and a lot less sort of not always. Sometimes you walk onto a set and it's incredible. It's a spaceship or something extraordinary, and then you do get that sense of utter wonder and joy.
Are you a collector? Are you sort of on the set of Star Wars sort of
my
tempted
wife
to take a thing?
Don't let me do that.
Right.
She won't have anything in the house that's not mock Tudor. No. I do try and collect a few things. I have places that I'm allowed to keep stuff.
Do you have action figures of yourself? This was a reader question, actually. Someone was asking this. Do you?
I do. I have about, I don't know, there's like 15 or 20 different sort of, from Doctor Who, from Star Trek, from Star Wars, from Mission Impossible, from Shaun of the Dead, all the Cornetto movies, there are action figures. And I have a little shelf in a room in my house where I have them all, and there's about 100, as you would. People kind of go, oh, yeah, chocolate, you'd eat yourself, having lots of effigies of your own self to look at. I said, what else are you going to do? You're going to keep them in a cupboard, put them out.
Yeah, exactly. You're not going to let them be on sale and not have one.
No, you're not going to just put them away. I mean, I used to play with those things. When I got my Star Wars figure, I was such a moment, you know what I mean? I spent most of my youth from 7 to 13, maybe slightly older, maybe a bit older, maybe 18, playing with these things, you know, and then suddenly there's one of me. Come on.
There we are. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. I completely agree. So we do. Let's talk about the show. So you and Nick Frost are doing this, and this is a kind of you two on screen together.
No, it's not. No,
it's not. Okay.
No, we're producing it together through Stolen Picture.
Okay,
I think I'm going to be in it. But it's not like a two-hander.
Is this because you've had some sort of horrible fallout and can only work?
No, God, no. And Nick's my brother. You know, he's my friend before anything else, really, and with Edgar as well.
Just trying to get a news line there for
sure. Yeah. No, it's purely to do with commitments to other things, and we're just starting out with our production company. I'm still beholden to certain film series, so I have to do those, and it's just timing. Nick and I will hopefully work together for the rest of our lives, and then we'll definitely do another one where it's me and him at the front. But with Truth Seekers, it's going to be Nick and someone else, and then me in another role. And that's all sort of in the oven at the moment.
Ghosties, this one.
Yeah, sort of paranormal investigation.
Yeah. That's the adult way of saying it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, is that a particular passion of yours? Have you ever seen one?
No.
Do you believe?
No.
That'd be why.
Well, you know what? Nick and I used to go ghost hunting in our youth.
You did?
Yeah.
So you want to believe?
We drive out. Well, what we usually do is we drive out to sort of an abbey and have a joint, and then run around scared. But no, ultimately, I don't know. Maybe there's something that has. I don't believe in any kind of afterlife or what the hell? There was a ghost. Right there. That'll learn me.
You've angered them.
I've angered the spirit world.
And when's that out? Truth Seekers?
Truth Seekers, I'm going to have to just ask the spirit world. Hang on. Are you there? No, I don't know. Have you seen Hereditary?
I have, yeah.
Jesus, that was great.
Did you get scared?
Mm-hmm.
I did. And I've seen a lot of
in a way that
films,
was so refreshing. Because most modern horror is predicated entirely on making you jump. And that isn't scary, that's just physically uncomfortable.
I had a nightmare afterwards.
Yeah,
I felt like I should pay them twice for it because I enjoyed the film and then I enjoyed
the nightmare. You get a free nightmare.
Free nightmare. Yeah.
It's like it's scary, like The Shining or Don't Look Now or The Exorcist. You know that's what horror should be. Insidiously kind of getting under your skin.
And it's quite a good time for horror film at the moment, I think.
There seems to be the whole Blumhouse thing, and there's certainly an interest in it. There always has been. Horror's very much a kind of a fantastic metaphorical manifestation of our sort of fears, you know, and we have a lot of fears right now. Everyone's so terrified at the moment.
So it's one good thing about
how shit the world is. Yeah. Well, at least there's some good horror films.
Yeah.
That's why all that stuff happened in the 70s with all the slasher era. All that was because of Vietnam, you know, because people were processing the things they were seeing on the news, and horror changed dramatically in the early 70s. Went from the sort of Hammer era gothic to far more visceral, nasty slasher stuff, and that's happening again now with what we're seeing with the internet and with the various psychopaths that rule the world. Anyway, here's Wincy with the weather.
There's politics. So you've got another thing coming up, Terminal.
Yes.
Which is more of a serious one, is that right? Is it?
It's quite sort of baroque. It's quite stylistic. It's a kind of noir thriller.
This is our worlds intersect here as well.
Yeah.
No, wait, sorry. This is Lost Transmissions as well. This is, right.
Lost Transmissions.
All sorts coming out.
Yeah. Look, I just shot a movie in LA, which won't be out for a while. Which is a little independent film, which we shot in 19 days. It was a genuine joy to do. It was really. I went from doing Mission, which is a 144-day shoot, to 19-day shoot for a feature film. And that's a sort of small independent film about.
Fewer speedboats, I expect.
No speedboats at all. Yeah. It's basically a film about schizophrenia. So.
And in the music industry.
It's a music producer who it happened to, the story centres around a music producer who took some bad acid and on tour, and it led to schizophrenic episodes. So he has to be medicated for it, and he decides to come off his medication and then has a terrible sort of schizophrenic break, and is helped by his surrounding friends. One particular to kind of. It's very difficult if you have any kind of mental health issues anywhere, but in the States it's very difficult if you're homeless and have a mental health issue. There's nothing can be done for you, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a vicious circle for a lot of people, because a large percentage of the homeless community in LA suffer from mental health issues. It's a vicious circle. So it was really interesting to do a film that took on something a little bit more serious. And
a very kind of hot topic of the day. I know you've spoken yourself about kind of past battles with depression and things. So you feel kind of important to do something like that gets the...
I think it's good these days that these things are being, recognised and spoken about more, because obviously conditions which don't have any kind of outward symptoms, you know, no spots or paralysis or what have you, or sometimes there is. It's good that these things are being discussed and people feel able to discuss them. I think the more people sort of discuss them, the better it is, because other people will feel they can too, you know.
Shall we tackle some reader questions?
Oh yeah, I love the reader questions.
Actually, I want to warn you that the imagine 50 people all shouting at you at the same time.
It's happening.
When are you going to do another series of Spaced?
Yeah, that question will never go away.
So when are you going to do another series of Spaced? Then?
The more they ask, the less likely it is. No, Spaced was about a group of sort of 20-somethings at the turn of the century. That's what Spaced was about.
Yeah.
It couldn't possibly ever exist again. You know?
Well, you know what I'm going to say though? Just the old, do the classic reunion thing.
Why? There's
20
no point.
years next year.
I know. We might, do a screening of it or something. But I don't know what I have to say about that's relatable about life now.
Look in the camera and just tell people that
it's not going to happen, kids. Unless you want a sitcom about some clueless actor who can't tie his own shoelaces. That's actually quite good. We'll do that.
Related questions. Imagine about, say, now 25 people putting the title of any Cornetto trilogy film. When are you going to do a sequel to?
We did do sequel. We did a sequel to Shaun of the Dead. It was called Hot Fuzz, and we did a sequel to Hot Fuzz, and it was called World's End. You know, films don't have to have sequels, nor should they really. Films are sort of, sequelitis is something that's happened really since, I guess, in earnest since the 70s, although there were sequels before that. Now this idea, we're watching films like television programs now. We go to the cinema to see episodes of things. Do you know what I mean? Episodic entertainment is really for television. Films are an art form whereby you tell a story in a specific, maybe 90 minutes to 2 hours, 2.5 hours if you want to really take your time, and then it ends. And that's how it isn't part of a longer narrative, otherwise you're just talking about television on the big screen. So for me, who's part of thousands of sequels, it's not always a necessary thing. I think it's interesting to see sequels. Certainly with Mission, you have had installments of something in a way, and there is value to those because each one can exist on its own. I think as soon as you start having a film have to rely on something to come afterwards. Having said that, one of my favourite films of all time is The Empire Strikes Back, which is a very open-ended...
We are seeing a bit of Star Wars fatigue, though, aren't we?
Aren't we just?
Yeah. Did you watch Solo?
Let's not talk about it.
Fine.
Let's not talk about any of them.
Good reader question here. What was it like working with Rick Mill?
Oh, lovely, and a real pleasure. I've had a number of experiences in my life where I found myself participating in the things that I loved as a young person. And working with Rick and Edmondson was one of those because I was a huge fan of the young ones and the comic strip. I was 12 when they hit, and for me it was like punk for comedy, you know. That's exactly what it was. It was the same seismic shift culturally for comedy as punk was for music. And so to get to actually work with Rick was something else. And he was a delightful, generous, funny man, and it's a terrible shame that he left us so soon.
I would want him to do something like give me a wedgie or something, though, if I was working with him. Did he do anything?
He was very... But the lovely thing about Rick was that was discovering him to be as neurotic and needy as I was in terms of, you know, he's a comedian, and after the take, you know, it meant something to him that the crew laughed, let alone the people that would eventually see the movie. And but he was just boisterous and fun and larger than life, and yeah, it was a joy, and I'm so happy I got to work with him.
Weird amount of questions about what you smell like.
Chanel Antaeus.
Right. Okay.
The other fragrances are available.
So if people were to go to a big department store, spray that on
that'd smell like me.
While watching this interview, then that's...
Yeah, if you get just get a little, what are they called?
Swatch.
Spray it with Chanel Antaeus, give it a little whiff, and that'll give you a sense of what this room doesn't smell like.
I think you've answered this recently. Would you consider working with Edgar Wright again? But,
would I consider it?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, well, it's the funny... I guess from the outside, people see us as being like colleagues, like, you know, people that... But Edgar's kind of like... is one of my family, yeah, really, and Nick, you know, and so the question is never if, it's always just when, and that's entirely based on our commitments to various other projects. And so yeah, absolutely, I it's not that I would consider it, I just expect it. Even though he's a nightmare.
Similar questions here. Is there a film franchise that you still want to be in, and would you be part of the MCU, the Marvel universe? As we said, you're sort of a sort of teenage pop culture fans dream list, really. You've completed the I Spy book of
I don't really have
culture.
a list of things that I want to be in. Even, I mean, I didn't know I wanted to be in Star Trek, and I didn't want to be in Star Wars particularly. It was just that came up, and it was like, wow, what's an amazing coincidence that it's something that I had adored so much as a child, I'm getting to participate in. I didn't actively chase after J.J. Abrams and say, oh, can I be in Star Wars? You know, it ended up, he asked me over dinner, said, do you want to play a blobfish? And I said, yes, please. But I got asked at an interview recently, I was doing some press for Terminal, I think, which is, as I say, like a noir thriller, and somebody asked me, what Marvel superhero would you like to be? You know, like it's every actor's dream. And I said, Captain Britain, because I used to read Captain Britain when I was a kid. It was part of the Marvel UK, the Hulk Weekly, which
the only one we'll have after Brexit.
Yeah, exactly, right. Captain Europe, he's out. And so I said that because I didn't want to be churlish. And then suddenly all these stories followed. Simon Pegg wants to play Captain Britain. Yeah. I don't really.
Yeah.
But you asked me. You know, whatevs. So, I mean, it's all...
This might sort of tie into... I'm going to do 3 more questions. This probably might tie into this kind of news churn. It says, you left Twitter. Why did you quit it?
Why did I quit it? I didn't like who I was particularly on Twitter, A. B, I'm very private, and yet if you are on social media, it's like giving the world your phone number, because everybody has a route to speak to you. And be that nice or nasty, it's just a bit tiring. Because
this is from a fan saying they're dying to meet you somewhere, and you
well, absolutely. And if they do see me, then come up and say hi, and that's fine. But also there's something so needy about. I see people I know on Twitter, who I like on Twitter, and not just Twitter, but Instagram and all those other ones, and I'm sure you get this as well. Everybody gets this. People that you like in real life, their social media personality you fucking hate, because you think, hey, wait. You're in real life, you're kind of fun and chatty, and on this you're needy, you want to tell us all your opinions and who you're having your picture taken with, and here's me. I see people I know, like name dropping, who are already famous, but somehow still want to tell everybody what an amazing life they live, and it gets on my tits.
That's a fine answer.
Also, when people died, this is another thing on Twitter, is when anyone died, like Rick, for instance, you know, you'd feel obliged to say something because it would be terrible not to, but then you do say something, and the media either picks it up and retweets it, because you can't have anything these days without it being projected through the prism of celebrity. Nothing means anything unless you know what Kim Kardashian thinks about it.
Sort of recoiling here because we're quite guilty of that ourselves.
Well, you know what? I sometimes see people make it about them when people die. I worked with this person at this time. This guy meant a lot to me when I was growing up. It's not about you. It's not. Who gives a fuck what you think, really?
Have you seen Limmy's take on this?
No.
The comedian Limmy.
I like Limmy very much, but I haven't seen that.
For every time anyone dies, he just says, so sad to hear about such, but he met them at a thing. He does the same tweet each time, but he did it for the Glasgow School of Art the other day.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Well, when Rick Mel died, all I did was, because I was still on it at the time, and I was just about to come off it, but I just posted a clip from YouTube, because I thought, this can't be reproduced. Yeah. This says, yes, it means something to me, or it means something that he's gone, not means something to me. It's so narcissistic. It's so in tune with the rampant selfism which is destroying the earth. Twitter. It's just it's symptomatic of decay. My publicist is over there going, shut up, Simon, shut up!
This is a strange one, but can you ask Simon why my body hair, i.e. my chest hair, arse crack, pubes, etc., go to a certain length and then stops, yet the hair on my head just keeps on going?
Why the fuck would I know that?
I don't know.
I'm not a hairmonologist. I think that's a biological evolutionary thing. I think it would be impractical.
So you do know.
If your pubic hair was coming out of the bottom of your trousers, you'd stand on it and fall over and get a terrible tugging sensation in your pubis. And as Darwin would have told you back in the day if he'd been sat here, and I know he was a big reader of the Enemy when it was like a paper.
No idea what you're talking about.
No. That it's just not practical in terms of evolution.
They know you. He would know.
He knew I know. So I take it back. I am
final question.
I am a hairmonologist.
So people, as you just said, music. So people are asking what bands you're into, what are you into at the moment, and someone says, "Are you really a big Sisters of Mercy fan?"
I was a huge Sisters of Mercy fan. And still am, and particularly of the period of time when their original incarnation, when it was Eldritch and Hussey and Gary Marks, that when they broke up in '85, which still feels fairly recent to me, which is very strange. But subsequently, when he teamed up with Patricia from the Gun Club and they did This Corrosion, they do all that big bombastic stuff. It was great. We used that in The World's End. I was a big goth when I was a teenager, so yeah, they were very much part of my musical landscape. Now, he said loudly, I tend to just listen to Six music all the time, and have that on as my kind of my sort of source of new and old. It tends to play everything that I love. The music I was listening to just a second ago before I came in was the Always new album.
Great album.
Yeah, it's
indie
lovely.
pop, proper old indie
yeah,
pop.
Really nice. Sort of reminded me of the Sundays actually. Reading, Writing, and Arithmetic, which I re-downloaded because I'd been listening to the Always. I can never remember what. I'll tell you the last things I bought. I can tell you, this will be an interesting gauge of where I am musically, because what I've recently, because it'll tell you what I recently bought. I bought Singularity, John Hopkins.
Excellent.
Saturday Night Fever, the original. I bought I Feel For You, Chaka Khan, the album from '84.
You're on a disco tip at this point.
I am. Yeah. Orbital's Monsters Exist. Reading, Writing. I bought Teleman's Cactus. I bought Idols, Danny Nedelko. The Always, I never know to say the Always or the Always because they spell it weird. James Blake, Don't Miss It. I bought the Sugar Hill Gang Definitive Collection. I bought Riton and Carlos Who Has the Ginger, which is an amazing track. I re-downloaded Beck's Odelay and the Deftones. Wow, I was getting ready. Bodega. The new Chaka Khan, which is why I bought the old Chaka Khan. Nadia Rose, which I downloaded for my daughter, which I love. That song Squad. Ceremonial, Underworld and Iggy Pop, Bombay Bicycle Club. There's a lot going on here.
Three things here then. So one is impressed that you still buy music, which is great.
Yes.
Two, that is a good list. And three, would you like to come in for work experience?
Yeah, absolutely. I always wanted to. Jeez, I used to circle things in the enemy when it was a newspaper, when you could write it in with a pen.
Well, yeah, you can do it on the screen, it's just you have to wipe it off the screen afterwards.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're about there, so it's been an absolute pleasure having Michael Sheen here doing this interview
Thank you
with us.
very much. You can see me in Underworld 7 very soon.
Simon, thank you so much. It's been great talking to you.
My
Thanks a
pleasure.
lot.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.